Hel- Hello, hello. I just realized I left my closet door open. Welcome back to the $1 Million Podcast. This is a video live stream where I go and talk to you about all things events between retreats and conferences. I want you to be able to make $1 million in your business using an event arm. And some may say, what is an event arm? Well, if you've never hosted an event before, or maybe if you're new to events are like starting a completely separate business. And inside of your event or inside of your brand, you want to utilize events to leverage lead generation, to increase revenue, and to really build relationships that will transcend just one course, just 6 weeks, just 12 weeks, and create deep connections within your community. That is how your community grows and thrives, even though you're not showing up consistently, or maybe you're not the only one starting conversations. $1 million event arm can literally change your business, change your life. And that's what we're all here about. We're about getting in person, creating those relationships, and living a free life however we choose. So without further ado, let's jump into today's topic. We are going to talk about why your event, and I've already, my brain today is just, oh, I love this. Why your event is not making money. I've seen so many coaches and creators host their first or second event, and they spend so much time, like 400, 800 hours on their event over the course of 6 or 8 months. They risk their livelihood either on a credit card or out of their bank account to make sure this event happens. And then they don't have the results that they want on the back end. They don't have that revenue that I just talked about, like that is life-changing money, happen because they hosted an event. And that's what we're going to dive in today. Is most people think it's a marketing problem. It is not only a marketing problem. And I want to talk about some of the most common reasons why your event is probably not making money. Cat hair is just everywhere. If you're a cat lover, go ahead and put that in the chat. If you're watching the replay, I just want to know, because my cats are my world, and also they've taken over my world. My muff is covered in cat fur. I'm covered in cat fur. My makeup brushes were covered in cat fur. So we're just gonna act like it doesn't exist. So here's the thing, is you can spend $150,000 producing an event. Most 200-person events cost that. If you are on the higher end, you want those aesthetics. Easily $150,000. And when you host that event, spend $150,000, you maybe broke even with ticket sales, probably not. And you're just like looking around going, everyone loved it. I got a standing ovation at the end. People came up to me and hugged me, wanted to take my photo, wanted and blasted all over social media in their stories, wore this event like it was almost a badge of honor that they were there. And yet I still had 0 sales on the back end. And yet I didn't actually make any money on this. And yet I poured 400, 600 hours plus the time and attention during the event into this event, into the community, into the people in the room. And yet I'm not paying myself. My cup wasn't full from this experience. I've honestly seen it more times than I can count, like how this happens and when this happens. Most of the time, founders think it's the same thing. It's my marketing was wrong. The wrong people were in the room. Maybe the ticket price was too high. Maybe my offer or my pitch didn't land, or maybe, what I was offering on the back end, like wasn't what people actually wanted. Or, there's so many things that we can get into our brain about like why this event was successful in all the ways that it matters. It was successful in social media. It was successful in transformation. It was successful on paper, but it was not really fulfilling and it wasn't financially rewarding. So that's what today's video is going to cover, is why your events aren't making money, and it's probably not what you think. The first reason, and it's not the only reason, It's your marketing. You probably started a little too late to promote your event. Most 200 person events need to be promoted for about 11 months for them to really sell with ease. And it does take grit to sell events. I'm not going to sit here and lie and say, oh, you're going to post a link one time, send out one email one time, and your event's going to sell out. That is unrealistic. But you do need to have a level of marketing, a level of lead generation, a level of consistency, almost a level of boring in your business for events to feel easy to sell. And even if your courses, your webinars, your digital products are easy to sell now, that does not mean an event will be easy to sell for you. They are not the same thing. They are not sold the same way. And it does take a little bit longer. And I think everyone hates to hear that out loud. That's like the quiet part out loud. So here's what happens is you wait a little bit too late to start marketing, maybe like 5 months out, 4 months out, and you're like, I should be able to sell 200 tickets, no problem. I have 1,000 people in my community. I have people like my email list is growing by the day. I can host a webinar and have like 75 people show up, no problem. Like I really feel the momentum taking off, and I know that it feels right in my body, in my brain, in my business to be hosting this event. So why is it not selling? Why is it not making money? Then you probably got a little bit in your feels, maybe pulled back the reins, maybe didn't have enough grit or strategy or something in your marketing, in your messaging. So then you get a little in your head and you're like, oh, I still have 50 tickets to sell. I am 45 days away. I'm just going to fill the room with bodies at this point. So you start discounting tickets. You start doing a BOGO special. You start buy one, get one, you bring a friend. If you bring a friend, if you're a VIP and you bring a friend, it's only $99. You know, that kind of stuff that you see. Maybe it is you start running ads locally. You start inviting local influencers to try to drum up some excitement to get maybe the people who don't need to book a plane ticket. Maybe it was an easier yes to stay local. You start doing all the tips and tricks to try to just get bodies in the room. You end up giving away enough free tickets to hit your audience numbers, but not to hit your revenue numbers. And so that kind of makes you feel a little weird in your body. Like you're just like, okay, it's going to be worth it on the back end. Right. And then your room is full and you start to measure the level of success by how full the room is instead of what is in your bank account. So you know, especially if it's your first one, and this is actually a strategy that I teach if this is your first event, is fill the room, get the content, try not to go too far into the red, and then we'll work on this strategy better for the next time. I don't say that often to my clients. I don't recommend it, but if you have the means in your bank account to just host the event, going into it knowing that you're going to be a little in the red, then you best be turning up and practicing your back end speech, your back end pitch, your back end offer, so you can hopefully break even, earn a little bit of money on your event. I only say this for the first event because events are a revenue strategy. Events should cover the cost of themselves with the ticket prices. And if it's not, then we need to pull it back. But that's myth number one, right? That is reason number one. That's why most people think that their events aren't making money, is because they gave away too many tickets, which it is. Like if you discount and give away tickets, of course, you're not getting that revenue. They started marketing a little bit late. Maybe their marketing was off, and you just discounted tickets to fill the spot. And that was your strategy. So your initial thought, and I want to say this because the reason that you think it is because your marketing was off, you started too late. But the real reason was that you were tracking the wrong metric. You were tracking the metric of bodies in the room instead of buyers in the room. Instead of taking the L, instead of having a less full room, instead of being more focused on having the right person in the room, you just filled the room and then no one bought your back end offer. We're going to move on to number 2, an architecture problem. Your event probably wasn't built to convert. It probably wasn't built to convert. It was probably built to impress. You spent a lot of time on aesthetics. You spent a lot of time on attendee flow. You spent a lot of time on the visuals, and you hired out to someone to make your pitch deck, and then you hired like a videographer and all these people to make it look pretty, and an event designer to have like all of the activations. You spent so much time and attention on the people to make the event look pretty that you did not have any time after selling, after planning, to really pour into your back-end offer and how you're going to seed and set up your back-end offer for success. So most founders plan the experience, but they do not plan for a through line. They do not plan for pre-seeding. They do not plan for how they're going to pitch, what they're going to pitch, and they don't really flesh out the narrative or the storyline that they're telling throughout their speakers, throughout their event. And so what ends up happening is your back-end offer becomes like an afterthought. It was, okay, I'll figure this out closer to time because I have all these other fires I need to put out. And that's really doing your offer injustice. And I actually want to roll back because I said this word and I kind of forget that you guys might be meeting me for the first time. You might not understand some of the words that I'm saying. So when I say a through line or a narrative that your event should be creating, right, is when you are programming your event content, when you're thinking of what speakers and what topics you want to have at your event, that how you slot them, how you arrange them should be telling a story. Now, it might not be like an oh moment, right? But I like to think of it as is you have your attendee, which is like, here's your starting point. After every single speaker, what is the narrative you're trying to build on? What is the why you're hosting the event? I'll never forget it. I went to Freedom Queen Live in 2024 by Bridget James Ling, and she had this through line concept. She represented it visually so well. So she came out on the first night and said, this is what you're going to learn while you're here. She did a whole speech. This is what you're going to learn while you're here. And she said, this is how you're going to go from where you are now to where I'm teaching you how to be. And this is how you're going to get there. And she listed every single topic and speaker. And she literally drew the line and explained it. She said, this is the narrative, laid it out visually. And then that's what happened throughout the next 2 days. So we already knew by the end where we were going to land if we followed all of the instruction of all the speakers and all the things. Now, there wasn't like any pitching by any of the speakers. Only Bridget was able to pitch. It was her event. But the concept of a through line and a narrative of a story arc should play out inside of your event content. And if it's not, then honestly, it's probably just a bunch of speakers jammed in together, and your attendees might not resonate, might not connect with what's happening in your event. That's when like attendees start to feel like lost or bored. I'll tell you another story. Is I went to an event this past February. I was up in Wisconsin, and it was so strange. It was like really cool because the aesthetics, like it was bare bone aesthetics. It was more about the content. It was more about relationships. It was more about community. And I loved it. She didn't pitch at it at all. And so we were just like, what's the catch here? Why? Why host this? And she genuinely wanted to host an event. She wanted to host a powerful event. She wanted people to feel seen. She wanted people to tell their story, which pop off queen. Um, but then that was after the first day is when I talked to her. And then the second day happened and then there was like 3 breathwork activations in a row. And then I talked to her again that night at the VIP dance party, and I was just like, "Hmm, what was your thought? Like, how did you come up with speakers?" And, like, just asking questions, and she said she had no thought. She just said, "I like you, come speak," and she didn't have any clue what they were gonna talk about. She had no idea what they were gonna do. She just knew that she liked them, they had good vibes, and I was like, "Oh, okay," because that's how we ended up with 3 visualizations, breathing exercises in a row. By the second one, your girl was out pacing outside. The ADHD, the neurospiciness was like real heavy because we were sitting in uncomfortable chairs for 8+ hours, speaker after speaker after speaker. And then we go into visualizations, 3 in a row. Absolutely not. I couldn't do it. Um, but there were people in there getting down. It wasn't just a me problem. Like there were a few others joining me circling around in the back. But all of that to say is how you set your conference and your content up for success is how much success you're going to have. If you are intentional with what you're doing, if you are creating a narrative with your content, you're going to have more success than if you just like, hey, I like you, come speak. I'm going to check my notes now. The third point of this section of this architecture no through line discussion, I also want to mention that even a mediocre pitch to a room full of buyers is exponentially more successful than an insanely awesome pitch to a room full of people who don't know you and don't give a shit of what you have to say. And I want that to sink in a little bit because we sit here and I just talked for like 5 minutes about creating a through line, creating a narrative, but also that it's also the architecture of the room is defined by who is in the room. Did your messaging repel the wrong people? Did your messaging attract the right people? Did your messaging and did your ticket sales go up based on certain posts you did, emails you did? Like having the right buyers in the room, the right people in the room for the reason you're hosting your event, for the reason that the through line is going to be so powerful for them. You can literally pitch them a sock and they should convert at 25%. If like a mediocre pitch will perform better than an incredible pitch to the wrong people. So, if you're one of those people that puts a whole lot of pressure on getting it right, on being nervous, maybe you practice 17 times and then the day of the experience, like you're overwhelmed or your vibes are off, like a mediocre pitch will still do your offer justice, even in only in a room full of buyers. All right, so now we're going to talk about 3 things that is missing from every single event that doesn't convert. So these are the 3 things which I pretty much already said. If you picking it up. There's 3 key elements to every single conference, to every single retreat that is selling something, to every single event where you're going to be pitching a back end offer, that you're going to be paying money, that there's a ticket involved, that it's a community building experience. There's 3 things that are missing from every single event that do not convert, that do not make money. And again, I've already said these 3 things. So let's dive in and do a little recap, shall we? So the number 1 reason that your event is not making money is because the right people are not in the room. Because you filled the room of people and bodies instead of buyers. Because when you fill the room of bodies instead of buyers, the room isn't 1,000% sold on you. And it's okay to have like affiliates, right? It's okay to have the speaker's audience come into the room, but they're still not going to be 100% sold on you. So you need to have enough influence in the room to where a mediocre pitch will still convert at 25%. The right people aren't in the right room because you discounted your tickets, because you gave away tickets for free. When you discount your rates and you give tickets away for free, it signals lack. It signals scarcity. It signals, oh, you haven't sold enough tickets. So you're just trying to fill the room. So the marketing and content that comes out of it looks like the event was so full. And when you start to learn the propaganda around some of the content strategies around a full room, around marketing and promoting a conference, you start to see through the smoke and mirrors. And so proximity to the wrong people costs you conversions. So when you have a room full of people who don't know you, who are just probably jazzed up to go to an event, probably there to network and sell their offers and services, when you have proximity to the wrong people, no amount of anything is going to get them to buy. And that is why your event isn't making money. Number 2, a clear through line. Like I mentioned before, every speaker, every session should be following a through line, a narrative, a story arc. You should be taking your attendees on a journey with this experience, with this event. You should know exactly where they're starting because you know who the buyers are in the room because your messaging and marketing was saying and signaling who needs to be there. And then you're like, this is the path of growth that you're going to be expanded upon, expound upon, whatever that word is, through this 2 days, 3 days experience. And this is who you're going to leave when the event is done. And every single speaker has a job. Every single story content has a job. And that is literally how an attendee goes from cold to sold. It's from a raving fan goes to, oh my God, I have to birth your children. Not that weird, but you know what I mean? Like, I want to have a slumber party and I'm so sold on you as a human that like I'm just going to be in your orbit forever. And here's the thing, if your attendees can't connect with what they've learned to what you're offering, they're not going to buy. So when we think about the concept of a through line, who they are at the end, it should be the person that your offer is serving. So when you are considering your offers or your through line, you can create a through line by reverse engineering your offer and who needs to be in that offer, which would mean that you're creating a through line that is the next logical step after this event is your offer. They are primed and ready to buy from you because they need to be held accountable. They need to have community for accountability. They want to have community so they can pitch ideas off of each other. They want to have community and to continue to learn from them so they can continue to grow their business. So not only should your content create a through line, it should also be leading them to your offer. Because you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. So that mediocre pitch is the part where you're like, hey, you should probably drink this water because you're going to leave this event right now and you're going to be like, you're going to have a journal full of completely full ideas and then you're not going to execute them once you go home because you're neurospicy because you already have like 2 full-time jobs or, you know, you're going to go back home to like your comfy place. And, you know, comfiness is literally where like the future you goes to die because you're comfy. And so that leads to the third part is a pitch that respects the room. Don't get it twisted. Like you should be pitching to a room full of buyers that have been on a journey of a through line through the whole entire experience. But that pitch, that offer should also be where the person is going to be at the end. Like you don't want to pitch $100,000 offer when your ticket was $97, you had a whole bunch of first-time speakers and you and it was like a modge podge of topics that they were teaching on. Like it didn't make sense. It didn't align. I also want to point out that not pitching isn't humbling. It isn't edgy. It isn't like sacrificial. You're not a martyr because you put on this $150,000 event and you're not pitching anything. It's almost a disservice because you're not extending the party. You're not leading them somewhere. So, all that to say, the three things that are missing from every event that doesn't convert is the people in the room, there's no clear through line, and your offer is just so off base that it doesn't matter. Like, it's kind of crazy. So the number that tells you everything is if your last event didn't convert at 20% or better, you have a strategy problem and not a marketing problem. Not only a marketing problem. So typical, like I'm talking Tony Robbins, Russell Brunson, they convert at 25%. A room of $4,000, let's do the math. So say their event is 1,997 and they have 4,000 people in the room. So 4,000 at 0.25% is 1,000 people and their offer is 1,997. Oh, that's a lot of zeros. It's commas. That's a $2 million event. It's a $2 million back end offer. This is why Tony Robbins and Russell Brunson literally basically have their entire business model is events. It's events with their mastermind. It's events with their inner circle. It's events in Fiji. It is events in Boise. It is like the same event every single year, either Unleash the Power Within or the Business Mastery one or the relationship one for Tony Robbins. They host the same event every single year, doing the exact same thing every single year and still convert at a 25%. So when we think about what that actually looks like, that looks like a year's worth of revenue collapsed in a weekend. That looks like leveling up your business. That looks like leveling up your leadership. That looks like the biggest launch of your life. And so since you spent so much time, energy, and effort on the biggest launch of your life, you now get to lead a mastermind or lead a program, lead people from this event for the next 6 months, 12 months, and you've already made all the money. So now you have all this space that you've generated for yourself. You've created yourself. You've stretched your rubber band into a new level of a human, a new frequency, a higher frequency. So now you get to decide what you launch and how often you launch your next offer. If you launch another offer, you could just decide to sell next year's event starting now and not launch anything new because you've already made a year's worth of revenue in a weekend. And that's really the difference between what an event that break even looks like and then what an event that like funds the next year of your life. Because there's a huge difference between breaking even on a $150,000 event and making $2 million. We all know this, but it also happens inside of our body, inside of our stress, inside of our confidence. When we are able to close a $2 million event, what else are you capable of? How much further can you go? Now, it'll either put you in a state of rest because you're like, oh, I've done it. I've hit my goals. Or it'll fire you up and say, how much better can it be? So let's recap a little bit what a $1 million event actually looks like. And here's what changes the rooms that you're probably building if you're not making money off of your events. One, the right buyers are in the room before the event starts. This part is marketing, it's messaging, it's positioning of your event. Number two, the content builds trust and moves people towards the offer using a through line. Number three, the pitch feels like the obvious next step, not a salesy moment that everyone can see coming. If you've waited to pitch until the end, you've waited too long. You should be pitching on day one. I've even seen people hosting webinars that are sending the offer before the webinar starts. That's how like pitchy. They're like, no, let's call a spade, okay? And now you walk out with clients and not just compliments, not just reels you're being tagged in. You walk out with people who are actually helping you promote next year's event, actually helping you promote yourself, your business, your offers. So if you watch this entire video and you're like, I got some work to do, you're not alone. That's why I exist. It's not coincidence. It's really a clarity moment. It's what are you willing to do and how much are you willing to invest? How much are you willing to change in how you've been doing things to actually see the $1 million event arm of your business, to actually have $1 million event? Because I can sit here and tell you, I've been in $1 million room. I've seen the transformation that happens when a coach that goes from making $80,000 a month hosts an event and clears $1.2 million cash in a weekend. Because that Freedom Queen event that I mentioned that I was at, she had 47 people buy her mastermind at $25,000 and she made 1.175 off of that offer. Her goal was 50. But I'll be honest, 1.175 is a pretty good weekend. She paid $250,000 to host an event that made her 1.175. Pretty dang good weekend. So here's the thing. If you've listened to this whole thing and you're like, I want that to be me, but that hasn't been me yet, hop over on Instagram, Events by Jamie J. Go ahead and DM me because I want to talk about strategy. Because if it's not a marketing problem, it's absolutely a strategy problem. And usually the two go hand in hand. And that's why I created a VIP day. I created the VIP day for someone who didn't want actual hands-on planning, but they still wanted the strategy piece. They still wanted and want to sell out. They still want to make a lot of money on their event, but they got the whole like execution piece down. That's why I created the VIP day, because we go over your budgeting, your timeline, your marketing positioning, your sponsorship opportunities, if that's a priority for you. We have a full day of nothing but strategy within your event so you can make the most amount of money possible with your event. If you're hosting an event in 26 or 27, hop over on Instagram, slide into my DMs. Let's chat about your event strategy because I want you to have $1 million event. Okay. See you next time.